All right, welcome everybody to episode 2 of the All the Rage Sports broadcast. We have today a little in-look on NFC teams, Luck's early retirement, current injuries and how they affect their teams, some roster moves as well. We're going to look into a little bit of the QB battles that are going around on the league. And also, everybody's going to pick their number one first round biggest impact player today. So that's all coming at you once we start All the Rage Sports broadcast. Hello and welcome, everybody. We have our one and only Kevin to my left. How are you doing today, Kevin?
Just wonderful.
Kevin is incredibly close to his camera. Jace is to my lower left. How are you today, Jace?
Just fucking peachy. How is everybody?
And we have Andy sporting his new Panthers hat down to my lower.
Back to you, Jace.
I knew it was going to happen.
It's right at the beginning.
All in favor of the finger point, say aye.
The eyes do not have it.
So hopefully we got a lot of the audio issues, the video issues from week one. If you did watch week one, thanks for bearing with us.
I can still see you, so no.
I sounded like a wounded water bubble.
Yeah, if anybody listened to episode 1 wondered who Darth Vader was in the background, it was Mr. Andy Stewart, who just apparently had to have his mic literally inserted into his mouth the entire time.
Well, I
He
did
had it in his trach.
I was hungry. I was hungry.
I blame the Bush beer.
Yeah.
Probably
All right,
something to do
so
with it.
we're going to start off with our NFC teams. Kevin, I'm going to start with you. We are doing the North Division and the South Division this week. We're going to look into the East and West next week, kind of split it up so we don't have as long as a podcast. 2 hours was a bit much. So, Kevin, who do you got that you want to take an outlook on here?
I'm starting out with the Bears of the NFC North. They had a pretty good year last year, aside from their special teams department. But I think they're going to have much of the same coming up this year. They added quite a few pieces to their puzzle. They didn't really lose a whole lot. And as soon as they figure out their kicker situation, they'll be good to go. But they picked up HaHa Clinton-Dix at safety. Awesome addition. Cordarrelle Patterson will help out on the special teams end of things. And they have Buster Screen at corner. He's kind of just floated around the league for quite a few years. And
yeah, he's been like a slot corner on like half the teams in the AFC. So,
yeah. So he'll bring a little bit of knowledge to an already pretty knowledgeable defense. They know how to get it done on the defensive end. Also, just for Jace, I wanted to point out that this is the 1-year anniversary of the Khalil Mack trade.
woo!
The greatest day in Bears history and the worst in the Raiders history.
Wasn't the worst in Raiders history, but it was the worst in, I don't know.
Worst in
Jamarcus was
Jace's
pretty bad.
history.
Jamarcus was pretty
history.
bad. Losing a Super Bowl and having to witness that at the ripe age of like 8 years old.
Well, I mean,
bad, but
who else did you have to draft besides Jamarcus Russell? Like, who else was even there at that pick?
I remember I had this talk with
That's
somebody
like
the other
way
day.
before Tim Tebow, Andy.
Brady Quinn?
I remember. I think that
Calvin
was
way
the Brady
before.
Quinn draft.
Went number 2.
Yeah, Calvin Johnson. The other one I was remembering, the guy who I wanted the Raiders to draft, if you remember correctly, was Glenn Dorsey, and he didn't turn out to be worth a shit any either.
Well,
So
he was an average player at best, but
he was certainly better than Jamarcus.
Yeah, well, anything.
Was that the Brady Quinn draft?
I don't think so. I think you're way
No,
too
that's
far ahead.
Nah.
yeah. You're like
Jamarcus
5
is
to
10 years different.
yeah.
That was
Vince
Nah,
Young. Was that
I
the Vince
think-
Young draft?
No,
It's a joke. It was a joke. Come
But,
on.
Well, also one thing with the Bears this year, so far they've been holding out the starters through a lot of their preseason games. They're not really focused on using any of their starters in the preseason. They know what they have with that group. What they've been doing to kind of prepare them is simming 60-minute game situations throughout practices to make sure that they're ready. And according to pretty much all their starters, their focus is Green Bay Week 1.
Yeah, absolutely. That's their main rival. I mean, that's who they're going to focus on. The big thing is the defense. Obviously, this defense is everybody is just expecting this defense to be number one, and I don't see a reason why it wouldn't be. It's the fact that they haven't played their starters this preseason kind of shows that they have their roster like ready to go. They know
they're not concerned
prepare.
with the preseason. They're like,
they're pretty
we'll
much
see what we can get for a couple special teams guys.
Yeah,
yeah they're shaking
Other than
out.
that, we're good.
Yeah, they're shaking out positions behind the starters right now to see who's going to fill backup spots and play nickel corner and things like that. So
Yeah.
they've got.
They really didn't. I mean, they really didn't even do much as far as the draft either. Their first pick was, I believe, a third rounder, David Montgomery, a running back. They did get Riley Ridley, and if he can be half as good as his brother, that's probably going to be, a positive.
right. Yeah, I think this season all depends on Trubisky's growth. It's just going to matter of how much he's going to be able to do offensively because he's got the number one defense right now. He's going to have a lot of chances to win games. Just depends on how he's going to handle that kind of pressure and how he's going to execute.
He's also one, though, that he kind of did. He's doing the reverse of what you normally see out of a young quarterback. Young quarterback comes in rookie year, they play really good. And then the second year, you see the regression when coaches have seen them, know how to game plan against them. He actually wasn't all that great in his first year and then had a really good year last year. So, I mean, if he continues the uptick.
He did the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, he was
as soon
on
as
the Rams,
as soon as you
and they
enter,
didn't have any part of their team that was good.
Yeah, that's true.
well, it's the same thing. Sean McVay is a quarterback whisperer, and apparently Matt Nagy knows his thing or two. Because I'll be honest, Trubisky, I was like that he had played 10 games. I think since high school he had started, even at North Carolina. What may not have exactly been 10, but it was a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
Like he had basically played less than a full college season, and he was a starter in the NFL.
Yeah.
So
Matt
it's definitely
Nagy-
going to be interesting to see year 3 for him.
Matt Nagy, another one of those guys who used a Sheetz restroom in a town that Sean McVay once visited, so he got a job.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Sean McVay? Yeah. Oh, you're hired.
The one thing I do want to
Can
bring
you
up about
spell
the Bears.
Sean McVay?
Did you guys see they brought in that ridiculous kicker battle they had?
Yeah.
Where they were bringing guys in. They had like 9, 10 kickers.
I
would
think
just
they had a
stop
total of
practice.
8 in training camp and had like a tournament thing with them.
Yeah.
Along with,
They
like,
only had
long
4 at a time.
snappers, like
They did 4 the
specialists.
one time. Because they even talked about it. Their GM said, I definitely look at 9 kickers, but I'm not going to do 9 at one time. That'd be ridiculous. They
Yeah.
brought in 4. The first time they did it, they brought in 4 kickers, lined them up in the same exact spot, and all 4 missed the kick.
And you know where that
one of
was?
those kickers was
I
Chris
think
Blewett.
Yeah, I think it was from the 40. What word park he missed that from? Like 43 or
42.
44?
It was a 42 yard
42.
total.
42. They've been sitting them on wherever it is, 42 net yards of the end zone, and making these kickers kick fucking field goals
That's
all
not a
year
good
long.
way- that's not a good way to test a kicker. Like, just make him
Like
kick the
Jay
same
Feely
kick
said,
over
he's
and
like,
over.
you're just projecting that bad, that
it's bad
shitty end of your
juju.
season. Yeah, you're just trying. It's bad. I don't want
A
to say
lot of
bad
bad-
energy and sound like a
lot of
hippie,
bad
but
juju.
right.
I
Eh.
see what you did there.
Eddie Pinheiro won that battle, though. I don't
Former
know
Raider.
how, but
The one that I want to
He
see,
never
though,
even kicked
is there's
Raider.
I
Fifth
want to
round
know
pick.
if they're going to try and bring in Carla Morgan and see if she can nail a 42 yarder because she's hitting 55 yarders right now.
You
Yeah.
mean Carly Lloyd? You just mashed up Alex Morgan and Carly Lloyd all into one.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, Carly Lloyd. I did see the one thing I saw though.
I don't
is
like
think it was
soccer.
Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was like, "It's all fun and games until it kick gets blocked, and then she becomes a pedestrian." And then,
Yeah, 100%.
All right.
Let's
well,
be
I'll
honest.
leave-
There's
I'll
maybe
leave
2 kickers that would actually try to tackle anybody anyway.
she probably has a better chance than most. She'd at least make an attempt. Most guys just run out of the way. I'll give her that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna leave the Bears on this note. I was listening to NFL Network on Sirius XM yesterday, and last year, the most bet on person to win the MVP was Trubisky. And the
Had to
real
have had
team,
ridiculous odds.
Yeah, I think it was a lot of it was he had some ridiculous odds in his favor where you could throw $20 down and win $2,000. But he was the most bet on person to win MVP last year. Which I
When did they
absurd.
legalize sports betting in Illinois? Because there must have just been a bunch of drunken Chicago Bears fans like, he's gonna win. I don't know.
Well,
All right,
I mean,
moving
that's like
on.
people in Cleveland getting the Super Bowl tattoos
Yeah,
on
right.
themselves already.
It's badass.
Every overhyped
That's
team
spirit.
does that every year.
Yeah.
There's always some dumbass.
Yeah, that's just idiots. So we're gonna move on to the next team. Jace, you had, I believe, the Packers and the Lions. Who you want to talk about first?
I'll start with the Packers first. Obviously, the biggest story in their offseason is going to be, obviously, Mike McCarthy departed. Enter Matt LaFleur from the Tennessee Titans to work with Aaron Rodgers. And there was the big story with Greg Jennings and Jermichael Finley, Ryan Grant, a bunch of his old teammates in the offseason, talking about how he was unlikable. You know, he's kind of a dickhead about himself. So it's really interesting to see you have a very young, sort of one of these, we talked about Nagy and McVay, these young sort of quarterback guru whispers. Didn't work on Mariota, I don't know, but
Nothing.
has. I think he's the case that can't be cracked. But you have a very young and sort of somebody who sees, like, I guess the public would see as very impressionable and is going to be bullied around. So we'll see if all the stories we'll see. It's basically a character test of Aaron Rodgers this year. This is the year he's going to have to prove himself. No more McCarthy, no more excuses. He's got a coach that's basically going to let him do whatever he wants as far as the offense and build around him. He's just got to have a lot of questions at a wide receiver outside,
That's
Devontae
what I was
Adams.
going to actually mention is the receivers, because he's got two guys. Allison, and what's the other guy? It was like a hyphen name.
Scantling.
Well, they have
Valdez Scantling or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Valdez Scantling and Equanimeous St. Brown.
Yeah.
So they have like guys. They
Geronimo
specialize in
Allison.
guys with three names that have titles.
The law
But no.
firm.
Yeah,
The law
Ben
firm.
Jarvis, Green Ellis. No, the two starters are obviously Devontae, and I had to say this. I did write this in all exclamation points with a bunch of O's. Geronimo! And then obviously there's a bunch of question marks. Something else I did note is this where Green Bay is where tight ends go to die, because the two tight ends on their depth chart are Jimmy Graham and then Mercedes Lewis.
I didn't even know Mercedes Lewis was still in the league.
I didn't either. I was like, holy shit, he's still on a team. But the defense, they lost Mike Daniels. I'm covering the Lions in the show a little bit later, so we're going to talk about him. But other than that, added Rashawn Gary, lost Clinton Dix. The defense was a big question last year, but they were very, very
Clay
bad.
Matthews.
Yeah,
Clay
don't forget
Matthews as
about
well.
Clay.
That's another good one. He was kind of at the end of his road, but
Yeah.
another key player. But
Yeah.
anyhow, it's
He
really
was
going to
the
be
face
interesting.
of that defense, even if he wasn't.
He was the hair of that
Before-
defense.
he was
the
the hair
hair
of
of
that
that
defense.
defense.
Yes.
Even if he wasn't performing.
As Steelers fans, we
to
understand how
his,
important the hair
first
of the
5
defense
years.
is.
Absolutely.
I said that. I knew you three would really, really appreciate that. I keep seeing the Mahomes and Palomalu commercials everywhere, and I'm always
Yeah.
thinking about that shit. But no, it's essentially if they can stay healthy this year, and if Aaron Rodgers can. Oh, the other thing I forgot to bring up is the running back position.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, who you got a little sample size of Aaron Jones last year. Ty Montgomery, the wide receiver running back, we don't know what the hell he is. He's a New York Jet now, I think,
Yeah.
if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. No,
I
a
believe.
Baltimore Raven, I think.
Yeah,
that's
he
what got
was
traded.
last year.
He
I
got
didn't-
traded. He got traded
Yeah.
to them late last year.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's still there or not, but yeah,
He
it
didn't
comes
get
down.
cut
It
yet.
comes down to Aaron Rodgers and the relationship with his young coach. This is pretty much a make or break year for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
No more excuses.
As in, don't break anything.
Well, it's.
Stay away from Anthony Barr.
Yeah.
It's make or break as far as the excuses part, but I don't see like he's not going anywhere.
Well, no, I don't mean as that, but you constantly and I work with a guy who's a Patriots fan, so I'm constantly hearing Brady Rogers, and the thing he's constantly, and I kind of agree with him. He's been drilling into my head is that he's blamed the defense, he's blamed this, he's blamed that, he's blamed McCarthy. Now everything's kind of white clear this year, and if everybody claims he could win, he'd have won 10 Super Bowls with Belichick and everything like that, He's got a clean slate. This is the year where he's either going to do something or,
Just
Put up
shit
or
the
shut
Tom
up.
Brady. Tom
Exactly.
Brady takes chicken shit and turns it into chicken salad, and Aaron Rodgers takes chicken salad and turns it into chicken shit.
I will say this one time and one time only on this podcast. Bill Belichick takes chicken shit and turns it into chicken salad.
So,
And that's- I'm
what
not
is
gonna
your
get into that
prediction for the Packers this year? Like, what are you thinking their record could be?
Obviously, the Bears are going to win the division, if you were to ask
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Trubisky he can do the Trent Dilfer, score a touchdown, a field goal, and win probably 11, 12 games. I see them. The defense is a little bit weaker. I don't see them having an especially good year, but I do think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a big year. So I see them maybe at like the 7-9, 8-8 mark, maybe even 6-10 if things slide a little.
That's a lot lower than I would expect to go, because I was picturing them in the 9-7 area. I feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to propel them to a winning record, but I don't know that they're going to do anything more than a wild card team if they make the playoffs.
With everything else around them, I'm comfortable to say around 500. But if we were to take over under on 500 win or 8 wins, I would take the under.
Respectable. All right. And what did you
Product
say about
placement.
And what did
They're
you...
not a sponsor yet, but you could be.
Investors, possibly you. Last week we put liquid paper on a bee, and it died.
it died. So what? Okay, Kevin, you didn't really give your
Catalina
prediction
fucking wine mixer.
for the Bears. What was your record prediction for them?
10-6, 11-5. They're gonna have same kind of year they had last year. Like I said,
say 12-4.
they feel comfortable
I
with
was saying
themselves.
12-4 too. That's
Yeah,
what I
they
was
feel
thinking.
comfortable with themselves that they're going to be back where they were last year, and I don't have any reason to think they're wrong.
I honestly think this is a 1 or 2 seed in the NFC. I think that Saints are going to be up there. Obviously, there might be a few other heavy offensive teams, but this might be a 1 or 2 seed.
I honestly miss Khalil Mack.
I think so as well. I think they'll be in
I
the
know you do.
They'll be in the running with the Saints, the Rams, and the Cody Kessler-led Eagles after Carson Wentz gets hurt again.
Hey, Josh McCown's on that Eagles team now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
put
don't
some
have to worry.
respect.
You don't have
Like
to
I
worry
said-
about anything with Josh McCown.
Josh McCown was looking in his man cave, and he had one annoying spot where he didn't have a jersey to hang, and he went,
Fuck
"Hey,
it.
Philadelphia, you guys need a backup?
Yeah. I need
1
another
year
jersey,
contract, another cool $2 million, and I ride off into the sunset."
All right, Andy, what's your first team?
bro. Okay, my first team, I'm going to stick in the NFC North. North. Wow.
The
I have
North.
the Minnesota Vikings.
Turner?
actually. Turner?
North!
Where's
Oh.
Jeff Junk when you need him?
I want to bring him up from upstairs so he can just make a cameo right now for that spot.
Get in here. But no, I have the Vikings, and me and Jace were kind of talking here right before we started recording about. I wanted to talk about the quarterbacks of the Minnesota Vikings, and he said Kirk Cousins, and that's about right. But actually, they have Sean Mannion, who played for the Rams for a while. Kyle
Oregon
Slaughter,
State.
Oregon State. Kyle Slaughter, and they have Jake Browning, whom they drafted this year. I was looking at some stats. Sean Mannion threw their only interception of the preseason. Kyle Slaughter has an 85% completion rating. Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
He has 3 touchdowns. He doesn't have a sack against him. So I don't know if Sean Mannion's going to be tagging his bags again.
So deceiving.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Honestly,
I was watching a
nuts,
highlight
though. That's
reel
high.
for
Yeah.
I was watching a highlight reel for the Vikings though, and Slaughter is an appropriate last name because dude was literally picking them apart. And one thing, preseason, yeah, cornerbacks suck, but ball placement is a big thing, and his ball placement is on point, and he can move.
Yeah, he can definitely move.
Yeah, he with a last name like that, Tom Savage is the one that comes to mind. That was a horrible
Yeah.
disappointment. Like with a last name like Savage, you should be like a perennial
Whereas
Pro Bowler.
Peterman
future
is
Hall of Famer.
accurate.
Honestly,
He
Savage would be
Peter
like
Man.
Baker Mayfield's
He
last
completer man.
But anyhow, so yeah, I think Sean Mannion might be packing his bags again. We'll see. Hopefully. Dalvin
So
Cook. What's up?
I was gonna say. So, what's your prediction? And that's what I was gonna mention is Dalvin Cook, because I think that team has to go through him at this point because his season was so bad last year.
Got to stay healthy.
Getting into is Dalvin Cook. He's had 2 rushes in the preseason. One was an 85-yard touchdown. You guys probably saw that. Amir Abdullah, he's their perennial backup. He looked pretty good. He didn't have much work. Something I wanted to talk about was the kicker that they traded a 5th-round pick for to it was the Baltimore Ravens, a guy by the name of Kare Vedvik. He's a Norwegian. He's been a camp buddy for the last 3 or 4 years, and he has done nothing but been an utter disappointment. He is 0 for 2 on field goals, and I'm pretty sure he's missed an extra point. So Dan Bailey's looks like he's going to have a job this year. Anthony Barr looks good. He's had 9 tackles. Their secondary is obviously bar none in the league. I don't know. Depending on Kirk Cousins, I think it could be a 9-17. Depending on Kirk Cousins. I mean, with Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs, Kyle Rudolph, there's a lot of weapons there. Kirk Cousins can take. I'm having a stroke right now. This is horrible.
Well,
breathe, man.
Kirk Cousins,
but not
is
into your mic.
Factor. Yeah, please
That's
don't
true.
breathe into your mic anymore. Kirk Cousins is the guy that is going to decide it, and the problem is he is so
Mediocre.
He has one game where you're like, damn, look how good he looks. He's nailing every pass.
Yep.
He's making every read.
Do you like that game?
You like that game. Exactly what I was thinking too. Then you have a game where you're like, who are you? What are you even doing out here?
Makes you wonder if maybe
Landry Jones.
maybe it's like in the MLB. Maybe he's wore the arm out. Maybe his pitch count was too high in Washington, where he had games where they scored 50 points and he threw for 573 yards.
I just think there was so much hype around him. Then he got paid. Now he's got all this shit hanging above his head from that paycheck.
That's exactly it. Is people were banging their fists on the table in Washington, saying, "Take the franchise tag off of him, pay Kirk Cousins this and that." And honestly, the Redskins, I mean, Case Keenum and Haskins, I'm sure we'll get into at some point. But other than that, they kind of look like the winners on that because they could have either, been held hostage, been prisoners of the moment, and forked over that giant contract to Cousins and gotten the sample size you're getting in Minnesota now, or draft a young guy, go out and get a free agent, kind of take your chances.
Well, one thing too that we really, you really didn't see a lot of was he was in the NFC East, and there weren't really that great of secondaries in the NFC East the entirety of his time there.
A disappointment.
Shootouts all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, when you have those secondaries you're going up against, it's pretty easy to look really good, especially when all you can do is throw the ball because you didn't have a running back. You didn't really have too much of an offensive line, so you were getting rid of the ball quick.
That's what I was going to say.
What I would
have
say,
a running
though,
game last year,
is
so
that's if Dalvin Cook can stay healthy, the Vikings have always, going all the way back to the Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham era, have had a very underrated offensive line. They've always been good at holding up for the run and pass protection. So if he can get a running game, they have another rookie tight end. I cannot remember his name. That was also a big factor in the highlight film I was watching. And
Irv Smith Jr.
Yeah, they can with him. Alabama. You got Rudolph, you got Diggs and Thielen. If that running game can take a little bit of pressure off of him, he might be a little better this year.
Yeah, that's the big thing. If the running game can get going and Dalvin Cook can stay healthy, we saw glimpses of him being good his rookie season. Yeah. And if he can get back to that, this offense could be terrifying. Like, it
Tell you
really
what.
could be.
Amir Abdullah could be sneaky good out of that backfield
Yeah,
as well as a
that's-
third down,
third down
pass
back,
catcher,
yeah.
change of pace. Yeah, I like that a
You
lot.
could throw him in the slot, too, with Thielen, Diggs.
With Thielen,
Like that.
Yeah, Thielen, Diggs, Kyle Rudolph. And Kyle Rudolph has to have a big year. I believe this is
Yes.
a contract year.
Yep.
And
There's
he's kind of
also
on the
another
hot seat
person that
with
needs to
Irv
stay
Smith.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, them
There's
drafting
another
him. It's kind
person
of
that
that
Stepping
needs
same
to
on
stay
message.
healthy.
Stepping on his toes.
Mhm.
All right, so what's your prediction for the Vikings this year?
He already told us.
I was gonna say,
What
I'm
was it?
thinking like
9-7.
9-7.
Okay.
They
Seems
have
like everybody
potential.
likes to.
They have potential to do more if Kirk Cousins gets his shit together.
This is an incredibly hard team to read because I could see them going 3-13, and I could see them going 10-6.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to.
Very,
guess on
very
that.
good defense, but he's just
Yeah.
they're in a they're in a
Kirk
division
Cousins-
with other good defenses, and they're going to have to put
Right.
up points, and that falls squarely on Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins needs to get his shit in one boot.
Yep.
100%.
All right, we're gonna move on. I have the Buccaneers next. Let me see here. So I got the draft picks here opened up. They had their first round pick, who I thought I wasn't sure who was going to go first. They got Devin White. I wasn't sure which Devin was going to go first in the linebacking core. But he went 5th round pick, and they are loving him. They're loving everything about him so far at this training camp. Quarterback Blunning, cornerback Dean, safety Mike Edwards. You can see a trend here. Nelson, linebacker, 5th round pick, the kicker for the Bucs, and then a wide receiver and a D tackle in the late rounds. I don't really care about late round guys. But the big thing with them,
Antonio Brown was a 6th round pick.
Tom Brady was a 6th round pick.
Hey, listen, I get that, but that doesn't matter. So here's the thing. As you can see on their draft, they went heavy defense. I'm not sure. I understand the prospect of it because they definitely lost some bodies. Alexander, their linebacker, inside the lost to San Francisco. Let's see here. What else did they? Gerald McCoy.
Gerald McCoy.
Yeah,
That's a big loss.
And but they did sign a few guys, getting Deion Buchanan in there, who has kind of like, I loved him early on in his career with Arizona, and he's just kind of floated around teams right now. He hasn't been able to find that weird position because he's one of the. He's kind of like Mark Barron, where he is
NASCAR. Yeah. Well, no, that's actually what they call him, is like a NASCAR.
Yeah, it started
The
with the
formation.
New York Giants when
Yeah.
they had
I
really
didn't know that's
fast
what that was called.
a really fast defensive line
But
instead of.
yeah, he's essentially like a middle linebacker that can cover, but isn't like fast enough to be a safety. Like, it's
Yeah.
weird. And I always loved having him on Madden because he was great in mid zones. But yeah, like it's one of those things where he's in a weird spot. They got to find a good way to utilize him. That's the biggest thing. They did lose Jacquizz Rodgers for the running back position. He didn't really do a ton for him last year anyway.
Adam Humphries.
I think they're going with Adam Humphries. Exactly. That was the next one I was going to hit. Who I really wanted, and now that he went to Tennessee, his career's going to die, so I feel bad for the guy. And the big signing they had was Ndamukong Suh. They signed Suh to replace McCoy. I think they lost in that category. I really did. I love Suh. I thought he was going to be Aaron Donald when he got drafted, and he just never really became that person. He had a few of those seasons, but then he was like labeled the dirty player, and now he's kind of been a journeyman replacement D tackle for everybody.
Yes, just labeled, kicking people in the nuts. They're stepping on their head. Had nothing.
Right.
To do with it.
He was just like,
I wouldn't exactly call a journeyman a guy. You remember when he signed with Miami, there were a bunch of teams that were vying for him. But now, once again, the Miami Dolphins overpaid for somebody they shouldn't have. And now
that's the thing.
He's just going to float around
Rams,
Florida,
he's with the
paying
Bucs.
as little taxes as possible on his NFL contract.
Yeah, it's
Well, he could possibly be a little bit better being with Tampa Bay because they have some other pieces on their defense, whereas Miami had Suh.
yeah.
Kiko. Everybody forget
So,
about
Kiko might get
I guess
cut.
the biggest thing here
Kiko
is
might get cut. I heard that.
their defense is going to be mid-grade. I don't think you're going to see flashes unless Devin White comes out and just shows that he's a monster and can kind of quarterback that defense. Secondary-wise, it doesn't really seem like they lost a lot. They more drafted and gained positions on that. So I feel like there's going to be some improvement there. It's all going to be, can Sue live up, can Sue fill that void from McCoy? Can Devin White orchestrate this defense a little better? So the defense could be better, but the bottom line question is, how bad is Jameis Winston going to play this year? And it's not how much better is he going to get. It's where's the floor on his horribleness, because the guy is not good anymore. And I think that they're planning on moving on from him soon. This is kind of one of those seasons. I think everybody out of that draft is going to be backups come next year, Mariota included, and Winston. So I feel like they're all not going to be able to withstand the team. I kind of wish, I kind of don't understand why they didn't keep Fitzmagic, because I think that he would have started.
Well, in the time
Winston,
in the time you started this podcast, Jameis has thrown 2 interceptions. Just so you know.
yeah, it's true.
100%.
It has.
His decision making is so bad. I don't.
Bad.
Well, here's the thing,
He
though.
has flashes of good, but it's not
like
enough
stealing,
to outweigh-
shoplifting crab legs.
Here's the thing, though. Jesse commented on it already. In the draft, they went mainly defense, and the reason being is, aside from Jameis, they have all the pieces on offense to be successful. Now, what's going to be the big difference this year, if Jameis does have the talent to be a starting quarterback, which he has not shown, is having Bruce Arians at coach.
That's
Bruce
what they
Arians,
think. They think he can be the guru that's going to bring
Bruce Arians is
him
the
back.
70-year-old, and we just lost Andy.
Yep. We'll get him back.
He'll be back.
There he is.
Yeah,
Okay.
there he is.
Bruce Arians is the 70-year-old Sean McVay. He's the quarterback guru from way back in the day. He was Ben's first coach as an offensive coordinator. He was there for Andrew Luck. He actually made Carson Palmer look like a good starting quarterback again for a while.
Yep.
The man can work with quarterbacks. So if there is anything that Jameis can do, and as a starting quarterback, we're going to see it this year. And if it doesn't happen, they'll probably end up being towards the bottom of the league. And there are about 9,000 quarterbacks coming out this season.
Yeah.
So
This might be a good draft. And that's the weird thing that I've noticed, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it. There's not a horrible influx of really bad quarterbacks anymore. They used to be, you'd have like 5 to 10 that were really good, and then just a bunch of other guys. And it doesn't seem that way lately. Like, when you think about who's going to be drafting for a quarterback, you're looking at teams that drafted a quarterback 4 or 5 years ago, and they just haven't panned out. So it just seems weird to me.
Well,
we're kind of in a weird era where quarterbacks
it's
are
because
plenty
there's been a flux in both college and the NFL of teams running pro-style offenses as opposed to the spread style, which won so many national championships back
Right.
in the day. And then also some of the NFL teams going to on a lot of them, for when they have a young quarterback, an RPO style of offense,
Mhm.
which helps a young quarterback who's not as good in the pocket with a regular pro-style offense.
Yeah.
The one thing I do want to say real quick is I don't think it's Arians that's going to be the big key to Jameis this year. Arians brought Byron Leftwich with him over from Arizona as an offensive coordinator.
True.
And if you look at, I'm not a quarterback guru or anything like that, but if you want to compare Jameis Winston to a previous NFL quarterback, if there's anybody I think
That's
that
the
can look
dude.
at him and go, "Hey, dude, you got some things you need to fix," I think it's Byron Leftwich.
Yeah.
David Garrard.
Right.
Yeah, there's another. Remember that
All
wild card
right.
game he beat you guys in?
I don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Okay. Next
and
one.
I remember the
Tarantino!
Raiders not making the playoffs that year.
We didn't make the playoffs from like 2002 until we had to throw Connor Cook
16.
out there against the Texans. Fucking
Hell yeah.
let me live.
So I honestly feel like this team's going to. I feel like I honestly can't say they're going to win more than 6 games. I just really can't. I just don't feel. I feel like the defense is going to drastically improve. I feel like Devin White's going to be a revelation there, but I feel like it's just going to be dragged down with Winston's offense, and Arians is going to improve them. But I think you're looking at a new quarterback in Tampa Bay come this time next year.
You're looking at a division that has the Carolina Panthers, the New Orleans Saints, and the Atlanta Falcons. Unless
They
like
are
you said,
the weakest link.
unless Jameis has an absolute career revival and Devin White is Derek Thomas 2.0, they are up shit creek without a paddle.
Great selection out of comparison, Derek Thomas's.
Yeah, that was pretty nice. I like that one. All right, we're
middle
gonna move
linebacker.
on to the next team. Kevin, go ahead with your second NFC team.
That would be the Carolina Panthers. They did a little bit of moves this year. I mean, one of the Jonathan Stewart retired, which they got Christian McCaffrey. So I'm pretty sure at this point they didn't care. They're like, oh, okay, bye. Have fun, enjoy playing golf or whatever you want to do.
Hey, what's wrong with golf?
Christian McCaffrey's the best white running back since Peyton Hillis.
Oh,
Peyton Hillis is
don't
1
compare
year.
him to Peyton
I
Hillis.
still can't believe how the hell did he get on a Madden cover?
Nobody knows, man. That's what you get for putting it up to a vote from the fans.
That's true.
Well,
That
he
the
was
only
big
year
enough
they
to
did
break
that,
the
and then they
first
went,
hit.
Oh God, no.
He was big enough to break the first tackle, which is what helped him. He played for Denver and Cleveland. So, when you can break the first tackle.
They should have made him more of a Mike Allstott kind of fullback kind of thing.
That's who I thought he was going to turn out to be. Honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why we're talking about Peyton Hillis, but
Yeah, we got on a tangent.
Just all over the place.
We go off topic so quick it'll make your head spin.
yeah, they well, as we were just mentioning with Tampa Bay, Gerald McCoy leaves the Buccaneers and goes to the Panthers, who already have a really good defense, and then they added a really good defensive tackle.
You're right.
They had also added Bruce Irvin at defensive end. He's not gonna, he doesn't set the world on fire, but he is a good, solid defensive end.
He's good for 8 to 10 sacks.
Aldrick Robinson at wide receiver. He's just another body, pretty much. They did add Paradise at center. He's been somebody around the league for a good period of time.
Paradise.
They lost Matt Khalil and Captain Munnerlyn were their two big losses.
Cappy.
The cap.
Can't get rid of the cap.
The cap is gone.
I think I looked at Andy and we were talking about who the corners were for Minnesota this year. I was like, did Captain Marlin come back for his 43rd NFL season?
But they in the draft they added Will Grier at quarterback.
Good pickup. I liked it.
It's a good pickup, but if
Future.
Cam can stay healthy, this is gonna be the biggest thing for them. Cam Newton's health. If not, Will Grier's gonna get a chance. We're gonna see what Will Grier's got. If he is healthy, Will Grier probably won't see any time outside of the preseason until he goes somewhere else.
I mean, other than the fact that he's the complete opposite quarterback that Cam Newton is, but
Absolutely.
Yeah, but they
won't
added a
talk
couple
about
running
that. I
back
like
or
Will
a couple linebackers and running back. But really, basically, this comes down to two players. It's all about trying to score points. We know their defense. They got Luke Kuechly, who I was so mad the Steelers didn't get. The guy is a machine at linebacker. But the big thing is going to be the offense. They've got to put up points. Cam's got to stay healthy. McCaffrey's got to stay healthy. They definitely need, those two pieces to go with the ridiculous tight end that they have, who's, I believe, Jace's favorite player in the history of Madden.
Mr. Greg Olson.
Greg Olson.
Old man that
you
father
throw
time
that-
over there.
You throw that post or that sideline route, you can't cover him, man.
I remember watching him play at Miami. He
But
was a
basically,
beast.
I think they're going to do, and by saying they're going to do better, they started out 6-2 last year. They were actually one of the better teams in the NFL, and then they came to Pittsburgh, got pooped on,
Absolutely destroyed.
and then they kind of just stayed pooped the rest of the year. So They came out of if they can come out of the gate strong and stay strong is going to be the big thing. Cam's got to stay healthy for all 16 games and just
all 6 games
ball out because you're in a league with Drew Brees and Matt Ryan. If you slip, you're done.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is Cam's health, and I wonder if he's kind of in that same. I know he loves the fame, so he loves being the center of attention. So I don't think you're ever going to run into I don't think you're going to run into the situation like Luck has, where he just is in pain all the time, kind of thing, and had to leave. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cam is sort of in that category behind scenes because the guy is
bad cells
all the time. Bad cells.
I saw he's Go ahead, Jesse.
Yeah, I was just saying, like you guys were talking with Will Greer. I think that's the reason they had to draft him is because they got to have something safe behind him, even if he's going to be average as a backup, and that's all they're looking for. Kevin,
I dropped my phone.
They need that security blanket, and they because Will Greer is going to get starts this year. Like it's going to happen. He's going to be injured at some point. It's just I don't know if he's ever finished the season in like the last 5. So maybe when they went to the Super Bowl, that was about it.
Yeah, and he didn't die on that fumble.
Yeah, I'm pretty much done. I just as far as what I think they can do this year, I think they're one of those low floor, high ceiling kind of teams. They could be 6-10, rocking around the bottom with the Buccaneers, or they could be 10-6 team trying to get into the wild card.
The division's one of the weirdest divisions because it can be. You can almost send 3 teams to the playoffs in that.
Atlanta
division,
could be last in the division again this year.
Yeah, or you could have one team that just dominates and everybody else is garbage and they're 500. So it's weird.
As I will say, I think it's going to be one of these top teams we're picking, the Saints or the Falcons or somebody. So I think somebody's going to flop and finish in dead last. And
bad. It's not
going
to be the Saints.
It's well, it's not going to be the Saints, but everybody's pretty much counting everybody in that division except for the Buccaneers.
Drew Brees hasn't been hurt in a long time.
Kevin, I can see your forehead. That's all.
Creepy
video. God. So I pretty much agree with your assessment there. They could be one of those teams that has the high ceiling, low floor kind of things. Jace, what is your second team? I believe the Lions we were talking about. What do you got on them?
Yes, the Lions. Once again, Matt Patricia coming into his second year. Him and his Ticonderoga pencil. He writes on a laminated sheet. What a psychopath. But not a lot really to talk about as far as free agency. The big loss was Ziggy Ansah. He's now a Seattle Seahawk. But they did sign Danny Amendola. They did sign Mike Daniels away from the Packers, who the one thing I did want to talk about, this defensive line is sneaky good, especially the interior. You look at the top 3 guys they have to rotate off the top are A'Shawn Robinson, Damon Snacks Harrison, and then you've got Mike Daniels coming in with fresh legs right behind him. I think that's a team. I don't think they're necessarily going to make a playoff run or anything like that, especially with, like we mentioned earlier, Amir Abdullah is gone, but obviously Kerryon Johnson is going to be the bell cow there. He's going to be the one that's bringing them sort of into, hopefully, the playoffs. And then you still have Kenny Golladay. You still have Marvin Jones, sorry. You still have weapons for Stafford, which Stafford, I mean, he's one of those guys that he's had really good seasons. It's one of those teams, the Detroit Lions almost seem like they're
cursed.
I can't.
They're the NFC Colts.
Exactly. And he's come out and he's one of those guys that even when he has good stats, there's still games where you come out and you look at him and he's like, at his prime, he's like Aaron Rodgers scrambling around making shit happen, or at his worst, he's like bad Joe Flacco. Like you really never know.
Really bad Joe Flacco.
Like not even
AKA Joe Flacco.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's going to come down to, I think Kerryon Johnson's going to have a good year. Pretty decent offensive line. Frank Ragnow had a
Ragnow,
sprain.
baby.
I think he's going to be Ragnow.
Who's Glasgow playing for?
I don't know. Some guy.
Yeah,
He's some
pretty
guy,
sure-
some dude. It's not Glasgow.
sure
No, you're wrong.
Okay.
But anyhow,
I know.
because I just looked this up. But no, basically if they establish the run game, Galladay,
He's in the Buffalo Bills running back room.
With Frank Gore.
Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills some more, shall we? No.
Yeah,
DJ Yell's
let's talk
getting
about-
cut. But no, basically, if that defense, I mean, if the defense can hold up, and the big key is going to be the running game and the offense and how Stafford. It's really just basically how Stafford performs because you don't know what you're going to get from the guy. And they basically stayed the same at all other positions. They gave
Going
Amendola, a couple other guys, but other than that, it's basically I see them as maybe once again crowded division. I don't see them doing exceptionally well. I hate to say it. I'm going to say 5 wins, 6 wins, maybe.
I think the Detroit Lions are vying for a top 5 pick. I do not think that they are going to be good at all. I think Stafford is going to decline this year more than anything. I think that Carry-On is going to be the majority. I mean, Stafford's always going to toss up touchdowns to Jones because that's what Jones does. He can catch any jump ball everywhere. But I don't see this defense actually stopping anybody.
One thing that I didn't write down that just came to my mind, what is it with the Lions and just taking tight ends way too earlier in the first round? Because if you
TJ
remember
Hawkinson,
correctly,
baby.
yeah, they reached on Eric Ebron. I think he was the 10th overall pick in whatever year
Yeah.
he came out, and then he couldn't catch a cold in the Arctic. And now they went ahead and they drafted, I think, in the 10th spot, if I'm not mistaken, pretty much the same spot Ebron was taken
Wait.
from,
I think you're
TJ
right.
Hawkinson.
Quick side note: Graham Glasgow actually does play for the Detroit
I
Lions.
told you,
He's
you
the
son
center.
of a bitch. You
He's a
son
center.
of a bitch.
He's not the starting center. Frank Ragnow is the starting center. He's got
Well,
a.
they have similar names. You
He's
fuck.
got a. Well, excuse me.
Hey,
I
Devin
should.
Bush got taken 10th, by the way.
I know that.
10th.
TJ
Wherever.
Hawkins-
Oh
got
yeah,
taken
so,
7th.
yeah, it wasn't Ebron.
7th.
Seventh,
Okay,
Yeah.
that's my mistake. So he got.
It's even worse.
Well, it's an even bigger reach, but when you look at it, everybody says that of the Iowa tight ends of Noah Fant and Hawkinson was the better blocker and the more capable player. So hopefully they added another toy to the toy box for Stafford to play with, and he becomes adept. But like I said, it's just honestly, we're gonna call that the Barry Sanders curse because
Yeah.
It already transferred to Calvin Johnson, the greatest receiver that ever lived.
that's a little much.
Megatron.
You know I love me some Calvin.
Hot take. Yeah.
All right,
Hot
Andy,
take.
what's your last team here?
Okay, my last team is the NFC South's own New Orleans Saints.
What
And
is going on with your camera?
I don't know. He's doing
I'm
weird
holding the
shit.
phone in my hand.
Why
I
don't
did
you
last
sit it
time.
up on the table like all of us do?
Because
Yeah.
everything that plugs into mine plugs into the bottom.
Set it
I
sideways.
have mine sideways.
My phone's sideways.
When
I
I
have
turned
it-
mine sideways, you said, "Why are you sideways?"
Okay, last time I may have said that, but when I recorded, we looked horrible. And everybody else looked okay.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, your shit doesn't adjust. Why doesn't your
What?
shit adjust?
Do you have screen lock on or something?
It's an iPhone 6. Give
I have
me
an
a
iPhone
break.
5.
Mine's a 6S.
I have a 5.
Oh.
Well, see, there's a little subtle
My
difference.
10R is on
Yours
the way,
has
but-
that S. Mine does not.
I have the 10.
Mine's a 5.
10 plus.
I got the iPhone 6. I got it off the sidewalk in New York, man. What do you
Yeah,
want?
I told Trey $100.
Hey, what's up with you?
All right, move on. Go on, Andy. Sorry.
We
So
will
I
talk
had-
about Peyton Hillis and do our New York accent.
Yeah. Yeah, making like told Trey $100 a week. But no, I had the NFC South zone
Next
New
one
Orleans
was
terrible.
that.
Saints. What the fuck was that? That was bad. Jeez.
You
I'm usually
tried to
pretty
mix
good at
English,
that.
Irish, and New York
I'm
in one
usually
accent.
pretty good at
That
that.
didn't
English,
work.
This
Irish,
podcast
and New
has a tendency to go over time, so I was trying to stop
Yeah,
laughing.
because
Then
we're
as soon as I heard
fucking
Kevin go,
stupid.
that's terrible.
Okay.
Continue.
Buddy
I
the
had-
dog.
I'm never gonna get a word in here.
No, go
I had-
ahead.
Okay,
Breathe.
I had my second team was the New Orleans Saints, and I decided for Jace's sake that I would not talk about Jared Cook.
It wouldn't hurt me that
So-
bad.
Jared Cook was okay.
He
Well,
was
then
he
we'll
was
talk
a
about
great
Jared Cook.
yeah. Go ahead and talk about
He
it.
was. Okay. So the first thing I'm not talking about Jared Cook first, but the first thing I want to talk about was the departure of Mark Ingram to Baltimore, and the pickup of a former Raider, Latavius Murray. And I think that was a prominent move that needed to be made because they picked up a guy who is capable of handling his own in the offense, but he's not going to take away carries from Kamara like Ingram did. So I think
He's a poor man's Ingram, really.
Yeah, he is, but he's not going to. I mean,
Which
he's
is
gonna
what
be
they
solid-
wanted because they didn't want to pay Ingram.
Yeah, he's going to be
Right.
solid relief for Kamara.
Costco Ingram,
Costco Ingram, yeah. Dollar store Ingram.
Sam's Club.
Um,
He's
obviously
great
all the-
value, Ingram.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
there it is. All the QBs look good. Jared Cook, I think he's going to play a prominent role in this offense. I mean, Kobe Fleener was like one of the fucking worst busts I've ever seen in my entire life. A couple years ago, I took him whenever he first got traded to the Saints from the Colts. I took him as like the third tight end, like thinking that I like struck gold, and I literally
garbage.
shit. Oh, I shit on the floor, man. It was bad.
I just really
'Cause you
thought
don't
that
know
he would
shit.
do something because you got Breeze as your quarterback. He like
Yeah,
everywhere Jimmy Graham's gone afterward has been shit. But
trash.
with Breeze,
Even with
he was
Russell Wilson.
frigging amazing.
Your
Um,
hand looked excellent.
Thanks. Cam Jordan, they extended him. That was a good thing to do.
He's a
their
leader
center,
in the D.
yeah, their center Max Unger retired, so they drafted a kid named Eric McCoy out of Texas A&M. He's looking pretty good. I don't think he's played a whole lot this preseason. Another guy they took in the draft is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and he didn't interview very well, and his times weren't great for draft standards. So he fell to the fourth round, and he was highly acclaimed by all the scouts. He's an all over the field player. He's everywhere. He can play any position in the secondary. He can play it. He can at least give it a hell of a shot. And they plan on implementing him right away. So I think that was a good pickup. Their defense is going to be solid again. It's going to be another. What is going on? It's going to be.
They are like a top 5 defense, and they're weirdly
Yeah.
sneaky about it.
Yeah,
And I don't.
Like Alex
nobody really
Anzalone
expects
and-
it, but they are.
yeah.
Well, they were so historically bad all those years that you felt bad for Drew Brees when
Archie
he'd
Manning.
score. Yeah, he was playing the Archie Manning game, scoring 50 points and still losing games because that Dennis Allen defense. I know all about Dennis Allen. Being a Raider fan was shit. Was
Has
absolutely.
he gotten his
Is
driver's
he-
license
yeah,
yet?
Is he old enough
Who
to buy
fucking
quesadilla
cares?
now?
I don't care. I hope he's in a watery grave. Fuck that guy. Stick him
Watery
and Lane
grave.
Kiffin on the same airplane and shoot it down.
Jesus.
This
The
is
hate.
being recorded. just saying.
You don't understand the disdain. No, you have to understand. I went through a decade of just Art Shell, Lane Kiffin. Just, I hate them all. I hate every single one. Of them.
Destroying.
It wasn't
Destroying
even
your
really
home.
their fault. They had shit rosters, but I still hate them.
Jeez.
Understandable.
You know.
Tell us how you
It's
really
Lane
feel.
Kiffin's fault.
What are your
Lane-
thoughts
Well,
on gun
there,
control?
there were guys. There were guys that did want the job. Art Shell did, but like Dennis Allen couldn't give a fuck about being a head coach. Fuck that
That's true.
guy.
So, what do you think your predictions are for the Saints this year?
Obviously, it's going to be another playoff run. I'm thinking like 11-5 probably. I haven't even looked at their strength of schedule, and I can
I
say
haven't
that
seen the
confidently.
strength of schedule, but I have a sneaky suspicion this is the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
I think that Breeze is aging just like Tom Brady is. Breeze will own all the QB records there are after this season, I believe. touchdowns and completions and yards. He already owns yards, but like he's gonna own everything. So I'm pretty sure that after this season, he's gonna own it. That offense is stupid, with Mike Thomas being one of the him and DeAndre Hopkins are probably the two most underrated best receivers in the league because they just don't talk shit AB. And he's
so butthurt.
I want to bottle your tears and keep them for all time. Just when I'm a little sad, just walk over and take a sip. Be like, okay.
Ah, salty.
I'm sure that would taste like shit.
But he may be above Julio now. I think honestly, I think it probably goes Brown, Hopkins, Thomas. Like that's kind of how I feel on the wide receiver. Thomas or Hopkins may actually be pushing for that number one spot because the guy is just ridiculous.
I think Hopkins is number one receiver.
Before we carry on, I'd just like to point out how when he was a Pittsburgh Steelers at the end of the year, you guys were still saying Antonio Brown was the best receiver in the NFL. But anyhow, carry on.
I
still do.
Is.
Continue with your bias. But
I still do.
But yeah, anyway, I think that this could possibly be like a 13-3 season for them. I think
it's going to be up there.
Season for them. All right, final team here, and I'll try to make this real quick. I have the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have needed a resurgence since they blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl. They went heavy on trying to protect Matt Ryan in this draft. 2 first-round picks, 2 offensive linemen, with Chris Lindstrom and tackle Caleb McGarry. They really didn't have another pick to the 4th round. Used on DB Kendall Sheffield, and then another one in the 4th with John Kaminsky, D-end. They're really focusing on trying to protect Matt Ryan, which is what they need to do. Matt Ryan really hasn't seemed to be the same since that Super Bowl. I'm really hoping they can. Big departures for them. Tevin Coleman was probably one of the bigger ones, even though he was kind of like a third down change of pace running back. Does it mean that we're going to see Devonta Freeman get like this increase in role and see him decline? Or are you going to see him flourish without Tevin Coleman nipping on his heels for carries? So that's yet to be seen.
Well, he's kind of like the Cam Newton of running backs.
Yeah,
Devonta Freeman's hurt 3-4 games a season, and then Tevin Coleman would get a bunch of value because he would have to step in.
Yeah, he'd have like
take the number one role
where he was stupid
waiver
on
wire.
waiver wire grab.
When you're really hurting for free agents.
Well, to quote Peyton Manning, I really do believe that the Atlanta Falcons can turn things around, and I want to say this now in our beginning portion of our show, because I know 3/4 of the way through the show, they're going to stop paying attention.
When all 12 people are watching.
13.
Okay. But anyway.
But yeah, I think this team is going to have a winning record, but I just don't feel that they're going to do too much more than a wild card. Obviously, with the Saints in your division, you got to be immaculate to be able to take the division. So they're obviously not going to win this division, but I think that they could possibly be a 10-6 wild card team. I think this is one of those divisions that you could see 3 teams going.
I think they beat the Saints probably once this year and get in on a wild card.
Yep.
They'll make it interesting, but they'll probably be the number 1 wild card in the NFC.
Same thing as
absolutely.
I said for the Panthers. Floor 6-10, ceiling 10-6.
Yep, I feel the same way. I feel the same way with them.
Another NFC South team.
It could be just the Saints going to the playoffs, or it could be all 3 of those teams going to the playoffs. The Bucks will just be scooping shit on the floor. So,
or they could be the top team in the whole thing, and we'd all be wrong.
And then everybody be like, "I'm never listening to your podcast ever again."
Yeah, you guys all fucking suck.
All 13 of them.
Yeah. It's like all of it is just like our parents or grandmas.
Yeah, I can't wait until we
you
start getting
swear
death
a
threats
lot.
from our parents because we suck.
Yeah.
Sportscasting.
Okay, so I'm going to move on. Obviously, we kind of touched on a little bit about Luck's early retirement, and we even touched on some of the other early retirements with your lovely Barry Sanders curse. But
I know how much you love Barry Sanders.
I do.
Fucking Barry Sanders.
Fucking Barry Sanders.
Fun.
Right, to give you the story back on this, we were all sitting in an Xbox Live party on like Madden 14 or something, and I was in Ultimate Team, and there was a drill where you had to stop Barry Sanders from scoring a touchdown on one drive, and it took me like 4 fucking hours to beat it because
it didn't take
Sanders.
That took you like a day or two.
Yeah, it was multiple days, but I think like 4 hours of game time, play time. But yeah, it was absolutely absurd, and they were sitting in the party with me while I just screamed, "Fuck you, Barry!" constantly.
Everybody's having very, very, polite conversations, just talking about what they're doing, and all of a sudden, fucking Barry Sanders.
Fun? Are you having fun, Jesse?
I just tackled the entire defense. He shed every tackle and scored a fucking touchdown on me.
All right, so
does.
It's happened a lot in recent years where there's a lot of early retirement. Guys in their primes, younger guys that still have 6, 7, 8 years they could play. Gronk obviously was this year, and now Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was 28 and Gronk was 29, I believe is how it is. They both might be 29.
They're both
Luck's 29.
Yeah, both 29. So is this something that we're going to see a further trend on, these star players retiring early? Because it seems to start to become more of a ritual. Is it something the NFL needs to focus on to see, like, what can we do to prevent these injuries that are causing all these problems? Because it's all about pain management at this point. They're all having such hard times with pain management. I mean, I don't know if everybody saw that interview with Gronk, but it was really intense when he started.
It was emotional, yeah.
His like quad getting just smacked in that Super Bowl, and he had internal bleeding, and like it was insane, the stuff you heard, and nobody ever talked about that then because nobody ever knew.
And the Gronk thing hit me a little bit closer to home because Luck's always been kind of like a nice guy in the league. He's very honest, wears his heart on his sleeve. Gronk's like a frat boy. Like he's like, oh, I ain't worried about anything. I'm out partying, and then he gets on stage and he
do some brocade.
He said, yeah, exactly. He said and the thing that made it genuine to me is before he was like, to the Patriots fans, please no. Like it was like he felt like if he were to retire, even though he's taking his own health and his own, mental health into everything, he still felt like he was letting somebody down. So that's honestly, it's a really fucking heartbreaking
That's a competitor,
thing.
Yeah, and he's a competitor.
Yeah.
It shows.
Yeah, you don't that you're from a young age.
Like
you're taught not to quit. Don't do this. Don't do that. Tough it out.
Man up.
And then walk away at 29. And then honestly, to walk out on a stage and look at it and be like, look, here's why I wasn't in a good place. That's a pretty fucking ballsy thing in my book.
Yeah.
Well,
100%.
And with both these guys, it goes back to what I was talking about last week. And like I said, I wholeheartedly agree with Tiki Barber's assessment of this. Is I think there's some certain guys that have, like, it's a genetic issue. Like they cannot stay healthy. Gronk could not stay healthy. Andrew Luck could not stay healthy. And then when they get these injuries, they would take twice as long as everybody else to heal from those injuries. The Luck one that's going on now, they're not really, it was the calf. Well, now it's a high ankle. Well, now there's a bone thing. What I'm really starting to wonder is if this isn't a Kevin Durant situation where it's not either any of those things. It's actually the Achilles, and they were trying to massage their way around actually doing the surgery because that would have been the year.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think they finally figured out that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And that might be why he decided, because like I said last week, if he could not stay healthy, could not play this year, it was time for the Colts to start looking for another quarterback, because if you can't count on a quarterback to be there, then you've got to go somewhere else.
So here raises the question, though. Is the NFL and us as fans and kind of just the community around them, do we demand too much from these players that we expect them to be there every week and we don't see them as human beings? Because that was one thing I heard them talk about on the radio on Sirius XM today. It's hard for you to take that person, human being, and think, oh, they have a week to recover. They'll be right back to the way they were. And that's just not how it works. And we look at it like a video game almost, where we have this player, he's out for 2 weeks. Okay, he's back. He's perfect exactly the way he was before. It's like, and you see those great stories, like when Adrian Peterson came back like 9 months from his ACL tear and lit the fucking stage on fire. But then you have, Sidney Crosby, for instance, being out for 2 years because of his concussion. And I think the NFL has a different mentality on that, on injuries and how we react to things. And we almost get angry at them for being injured so much. And it's like, you got to think of these people as humans.
The human element is, I mean, it's essentially taken out of it, especially if you play fantasy football.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, somebody gets injured on your fantasy roster, I'm like, fucking like, you son of a bitch! Like, you
the advent.
You didn't get Andrew Luck
football.
auto drafted an hour before he retired, like I did, though.
I
That
did see that
blows.
video. There was a video on Twitter of a guy. I mean, he was like 10 minutes before he announced his retirement. He took him, and all of a sudden, and I did write this down in my notes. I have Luck. And then there's a line that says hammered because I was piss drunk Saturday night. Well, this is a story. My first thought is I'm drinking, I'm having a good time, everything like that. For anybody who doesn't know about this group, we have a fantasy football league with a bunch of other friends and family, in addition to the four of us on this podcast. And Andy, and not to be a dick, there has been a couple of times where you've been fooled on like fake, like news accounts and stuff like that. Where
I send you shit all the time.
Yeah, you're constantly, and I'm like, dude, it's like, some parody account or something like that. When you sent that text Saturday night, I was so drunk, I went, that's a fake Schefter account on Twitter or something like that. Somebody's playing around. Somebody's playing some bullshit. And I always, on Twitter, you look for the blue check mark.
Yep.
And I think it was like 4 minutes prior, I go and I refresh, and it was Adam Schefter right at the top of it. Andrew Luck will announce his retirement. And it was like a holy fuck moment.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It was like a whole
believe
buzz.
that?
Four times.
I got the text from Andy, and then I looked everywhere to try and find a story on it. And before I could find anything, Yahoo, which is the fantasy that one was on where he was auto-drafted for me, sent me a notification that 21,000 people had dropped Andrew Luck.
I was in a Yahoo league last
Okay,
year.
true.
It would do that throughout the year. That's so fucking funny. Like 10 minutes later, it's like, oh, everybody's just getting rid of him. Like people are drafting and they're dropping him from their teams.
Yep. But I think that is it. I think fantasy is the big factor in that. I think that even when you play like hockey fantasy, it's different because you do it like a week and they play all these different games and you choose which players to start each day. It's like weird, but it's fun. It's not as popular.
Yeah.
Baseball's not as popular. Football is the one.
I was gonna say,
incredibly
and there
popular.
is not
for
as much
fantasy.
shit talking in fantasy hockey. I don't care
No.
what. Me and Jace literally I believe the last time we fought over fantasy.
We've
football,
almost come to fight
Yeah.
blows over.
Yeah.
fantasy
Well, the
football.
funny part is that the difference with football and a lot of these other sports is like it's a 53-man roster, but every one of those 53 guys has such a specified job on that team and skill level that you can't, like, Andrew Luck goes down at quarterback, and then you've got Jacoby Brissett. The talent drop-off is so large from a starter to
One
the next
player can
guy.
affect a team so drastically
And
by losing that
whereas
one player,
you have-
player.
You have way less people in hockey. You have 9 starters in baseball. So it's just the sheer number.
I also think it has to deal with the amount of games you play. All these other leagues are 82 games, or fucking baseball's like what, 190 games, or something like that.
128.
Yeah, it's stupid the amount of games. But it's like there's so much in your face with the games there's not that week build up and the talk and the practice and all this other shit.
And the shit talk.
Yeah, and it's like every single hockey game, there's a day between or 2 days between. And it's
Hockey
is the best sport in the world. It comes playoff time. It's amazing.
You didn't say golf. But
Yeah.
No, I'm not actually serious with that. As far as, like you said, hockey and everything like that, when it's baseball's hard to get into because when they're playing on like a random Tuesday night in, Arizona or something like that, it's
Who gives a shit?
I mean, I do. I watch that. I'm honest. I watch that shit, but it's hard. It's hard for.
We live next to Pittsburgh, so baseball doesn't exist here.
Well, it's 10:30 at night, and I'm just looking for something to turn the TV on to fall asleep to. It's usually like Phillies and Mets or something on ESPN. I'll watch.
Yeah.
But baseball, you don't. Hockey, not as much as you used to. But I think the big thing, to get back to Jesse's point, with these guys getting hurt, Gronk especially, we kind of make these guys superhuman, like they're larger than life. Especially Gronk. You talk about
he was,
he basically was, other than the injuries, the equivalent of a walking, talking Superman on a football field. And then when Superman, has to take 6 weeks off for a hip contusion or something, or bad knee, something like that, everybody's kind of like, okay, you're supposed to be this superhero type player. What the
hell are you doing?
Yeah, and when you got, like I said, my point with baseball and everything, they play a much larger schedule, but football is so much more violent in such a shorter schedule. You figure they play baseball from April or May until October. They play hockey from September, October, clear until April, March sometimes. Football
Funny story.
It goes into June. It goes into June.
Quick funny story. Quick funny story, non-sports related. Jace brought up Superman, and I just watched a video this week where they talked about the origin of kryptonite, and it was because back in the original Superman days, it was such a hot comic that they couldn't come up with a way to let this guy take his 2-week vacation he wanted to.
Yeah.
So they invented kryptonite as that, so they could come up with an excuse for why he was gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yep.
That is pretty
kryptonite
sweet.
was just so some dude could go down to the beach for 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's like, I just want to take my kids down to the boardwalk. He's sick.
Comic.
Goodbye.
Yeah. But anyhow, one last thing, I wanted to touch a little bit on what Jace just said. I had a basketball coach in high school, and he always used to tell us that basketball is a contact sport. Football is a murderous sport. So, I mean, that's end all be all. It's a hard game to play.
Basketball, yeah, you get into the hoop, you'll get mugged.
Oh, yeah.
You're not getting mugged the entire way up the court.
Yeah.
And you have no threat. You're not going to get 3 yards off the
blindsided.
baseline and, take an inbounds pass and somebody's going to clothesline the fuck out of you. Right
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So we're going to move on to I'm going to kind of combine some categories here. We're looking at some current injuries that are affecting teams, roster moves that may be coming, and then I want to touch into QB battles after this. But I want to talk about some veterans that are people you're going to see moving trade-wise. In fact, there was a trade that just happened while we were on here. Patriots acquired guard Yul Munor.
Okay, somebody else
Spell it.
get it up on
Spell
NFL
it.
so we can
Spell it.
say
Luemunor.
You're going to lose me on video for a minute, but I'm going to go figure out how to pronounce this man.
Yeah, I'm
Yul
pulling up
Munor.
NFL right now so I can get the name.
But the Patriots
pronounced
acquired
right.
guard from the Ravens just a
I'm on
few
Twitter.
moments ago. Obviously, Clowney is in the news right now of a possible trade. And
I can't pronounce that friggin' name.
I'm looking at.
We just lost Andy.
Like, yeah, you guys are off talking about what the hell you're talking about.
Jermaine Illuminor.
Illuminor. There we go. Like the Illuminators. Or
the
but
Illuminati.
they just had their center get injured, so this could be like another move to help out that offensive line.
They're saying David Andrews.
Oh wait, guys!
Make a comeback.
Quick timeout. News on the Andrew Luck front. Brock Osweiler visited the Colts today.
Yes.
This
Ouch.
just in.
They're saved.
They're good to go. They're good to go. So
Can I just say?
I'm just
Can I
gonna go-
hold up?
That's an Elway
Before you go on,
quarterback,
can I say
baby.
it? Can I say it one time? Brock and roll, baby.
I'm just going to kind of go down the list here that they
I can't
say
wait till
on,
Brocktober.
NFL about possible trade candidates, and there's a few on here that I'm like really surprised about. Obviously, Clowney is up there on the list right now. He's been talking to Miami, he wants to go to the Eagles and Seahawks, but no one really knows how much interest.
He's literally
generated
saying
there.
the bullshit is for the birds.
Yeah.
Bullshit being the Texans, and then he wants to be a Seahawk or an Eagle.
Right.
That's the best joke I'm going to have for this podcast. So just move on.
So there are possible rumors of Kenyon Drake and Kenny Stills being traded. Obviously,
Tank
Trent
for
Williams,
Tua.
Tank for Tua. Trent
They've got
Williams
Josh
is another
Rosen.
one
What are you
that's
talking
in
about?
the news,
Yeah. They're saved.
Trent-
The ultimate
Williams is
forgotten
one.
man in the NFL.
but not gonna let me talk.
Sorry, continue.
Trent Williams is another one they keep mentioning, but obviously there's a lot of Jay Gruden's been in there. We're not trading him. We're not trading him. We're not trading him. But that's happened many times before. How many times did Gettleman say that he was not going to trade Odell Beckham? A bunch of backup QBs. Obviously, Dobbs might be one in the mix. Hoyer, Bethard. All these needy teams that are coming about injuries. Definitely one that could be on there. And this is what I found interesting, and I don't know why it's on here, but they're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals may give up and just trade off A.J. Green, John Ross, and Bernard.
That would be awesome.
Get picks. Get picks.
When in doubt, give up.
Get value while you can.
Quick thing here, and this is so depressing to me. I'm looking probably at the same thing you are, the NFL's potential cuts trades.
Absolutely.
The TJ Yeldon is a potential cut, but in the rundown of it, they say perhaps the deepest backfield in football. And I so want to punch whoever wrote that in the face.
Whoever
So
wrote that shouldn't have a writing job.
No. One that I did find interesting, Shane Ray being cut from the Ravens.
Yeah.
I thought that was
He's never
really
been
interesting.
outstanding, but he's always been one of those, like, he's
I feel
like a
like-
Larry Foote kind of player. Like
Third
we're
down,
talking about.
pass
around
rusher.
the
He's
ball.
a pass rusher.
He's
I feel
around
like
the
with a
ball.
proper team, he could be an awesome pass rusher, but he just hasn't really lived up to it. Kiko Alonso, another one.
Me and Jace just talked about that.
Yeah. And then Graham Gano and Mason Crosby have a possibility of all that happening.
I remember watching Mason Crosby. Who the hell was he kicking against? A guy named Justin Medlock. You guys have never heard of him. He was a kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a guy out of UCLA, and I watched them. They did like a college Hawaii thing, and Darius Hayward-Bay was there, Greg Olson, Mason Crosby. I forget who all was there, but all these old
Hi,
guys
sis.
now.
Kevin
I
says
remember
hi,
when-
babe. It's a lovely Chelsea Baden over here.
Chelsea
I can't
Baden.
even. Yeah. She's made her cameo appearance on the podcast. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be some names that we're used to hearing on rosters that are kind of mainstays.
There's
should be
one that
gone.
I'm seeing here that I don't want to say his name because the first thing I'll hear is 93-yard touchdown.
Terrell Pryor. That was Jesse. I still think about when I'm really sad in life. I think about you talking shit for about 2 hours straight,
And
then
then
sitting on my
that's what
couch
happened.
next to me. And especially after I think we like fumbled a kickoff and we're on like the 7. Yeah, we were on the 7-yard line. So like, this game's gonna be a shit show. You're gonna get your asses wiped. This and that. And then he takes it right up the middle, and I've never felt. I want to feel that pure joy all the time in my life.
Okay, well, Jesse, we finished off with the trades and cuts thing.
Yes.
All right,
kinda
I
wanna
wanted to
move
hit up the predictions thing real quick, if you don't mind.
If you don't mind, can I?
NFL.com
I did write a big thing about injuries real quick. I'll just go down through it real fast.
Go for it.
OBJ, Lyle Collins. Who else do I have here? Sterling Shepard. I have a big list here as far as these are all guys who are kind of on the bubble for week 1. Nick Bosa with an ankle injury, Fletcher Cox, Nigel Bradham, Weston Richburg, the starting center for the 49ers last year. DK Metcalf is another questionable for week 1, in addition to Lyle Collins and OBJ. The one that I saw, everybody's talking about Kyler Murray this offseason. Hakeem Butler, the wide receiver they drafted, is going to IR with a hand injury, so that's another weapon for them lost. Obviously, I wrote down Clowney in this section because of my shitty Birds joke, but Kenny Stills has a minor right leg injury. They're not saying what it is. And then the last one is obviously the one we knew. Jesse's dogs are misbehaving in the background. But
those are actually my dogs.
That's Andy.
That was my dog.
Oh, I thought...
That sounded like Chelsea. Yes, I know.
It did sound exactly like Chelsea in the background. I'm not going to lie to you.
I know what you said.
But the biggest one, Lamar Miller, obviously, after the Texans cut Donta Foreman, losing him to a torn ACL hurts pretty bad. But that's injuries. That's your injury update. We may move on.
On the Texans one, I'm not really concerned about that because I think Duke Johnson's actually a better running back than Lamar Miller is.
So too.
I still think he's like a reception sort of receiving back. They need sort of a hammer type guy, but he's going to fill that.
I think Duke Johnson will surprise you.
Is he still a free agent?
Didn't
they were
Texans
talking
sign
about
Jay Ajayi?
Jay Ajayi. I don't know if they have, but they've been talking about it.
I don't know, but I have not.
They've talked
since he had that giant game. I traded for him the second he had that big game against the Steelers.
Me.
Yeah, and you robbed me, you motherfucker. But I wonder if you didn't rob me. He just didn't pan out to shit. But anyhow.
All right. Well, the NFL Network came out. They had their predictions on what the outcomes are going to be for divisions coming up this year. The AFC East, they had the Patriots getting 28 of the 29 votes. The Jets got 1 vote. The AFC North, they had the Browns beating the Steelers 13-12. Cincinnati got 0 votes. In the AFC South, it was Texans 14, Jags 10 as far as their votes. The AFC West had Kansas City getting 22 votes. Denver got 0. The NFC East, it was all Philly and Dallas. Philly got 23, Dallas got 6. The NFC North, Minnesota had 13, and Detroit had 0, so they're a little less hot on Minnesota winning that. Yeah. The NFC South, New Orleans got 24 out of the 29, and Atlanta got the other 5. The West was the Rams getting 25, and Seattle and San Fran both got 2 votes.
How did San Fran even get a vote?
I'm going to send an email to the NFL Network. No, I'm going to send an email to the NFL Network. I want to replace the man one of the 12, whoever the 12 votes were, I want one of their jobs. Whoever picked the Detroit Lions to win that division over the Bears.
Yeah, sorry.
What are you smoking? Like, what are you
no
on?
Way.
No
friggin' way.
Oh, the Minnesota Vikings over the Bears. Okay. You said Detroit Lions. I'm like, no, nobody picked Detroit.
Even then, the Vikings over
I thought you said the Lions. So that's my mistake.
The Lions got 0.
Honestly, I think I was just so shocked that somebody picked somebody other than the Bears to win that division.
Yeah.
I think I just kind of blacked out there.
They picked Minnesota with 13 out of 29.
A fit of rage.
So the Bears, I think the Bears were at like 6 or something like that.
They were a
they were pretty close
kick
to
away
the same
from
Packers,
the NFC fucking
it might have been like 8.
That doesn't even make sense.
And see, as much as we sit here and we're like this. As much as we sit here, we're like, our podcast sucks. It's like there are people out there that they get paid a lot more money than we all are to have really bad opinions like that. Like, how dumb is that?
That's a hot take, baby. The fucking Lions are taking it this year.
That's off the frying pan. That's hot.
Off the frying pan into
One
the
thing
fire.
I want to touch on super quick is some QB battles that are out there right now. 2 big ones that come to mind right now are actually the Titans, who we watched. I got a good view of because of the Steeler-Titans game with Tannehill and Mariota. And there's a lot of people speculating that if they have a losing record in the first 4 or 5 games, Tannehill's going to be in there. The other one right now, obviously the Redskins, because everybody wants Dwayne Haskins in there. Keenum is going to be taking those snaps, and we just don't know how long he can hold them off. And then lastly,
Well,
the one
Colt McCoy gets healthy.
well,
They're both on the bench.
Colt McCoy is in there just slinging
Colt McCoy.
5-yard.
The
check
Redskins
He
down.
was he was
fucked
named
him
their
over.
starter before he got hurt.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's
And
Colt
then one
McCoy's
of the
luck,
last ones I kind of, and you guys can add whatever ones you want here, but one of the last ones I'm looking at is kind of an odd one, and a lot of people have been talking about it, is Eli and Daniel Jones.
I have that wrote on my notes right now in big letters.
Yeah,
Eli, Danny J.
So everybody has been tremendously impressed with Danny J through this preseason, and people are like, wow, maybe they weren't insane for drafting him as high as they did. And a lot of people think that the second they drop a loss or two below 500, Jones is going to be in there. And if it's before trade deadline, you might see Eli Manning move.
Well, if you just put stock into how many times Gettleman said he wasn't going to trade OBJ, and then John Mara and all them have come out this preseason and been like, we want Daniel Jones to sit for 1 or 2 full years behind Eli Manning. Week 6 this year, you could pretty much guarantee him to be under center. Is what's going to
I
happen.
think so.
Yeah, if they aren't winning, which I mean,
Here's my
don't
hot
think
And
they're winning.
here's
I'll
the
make
point they keep making about the not winning, though. Kurt Warner was in front of Eli Manning when he was a rookie. They were 5-4, and they started Eli. So they were winning. They had a decent record at the start, and they talked about that over and over and over again on the radio today when I was listening, that it may not matter if they're winning. If they feel that you have a better chance with Jones, they're going to throw him in.
Is there a like hole in my memory? When did I miss Kurt Warner being a New
That's
York
what I
Giant?
thought, too.
Yeah.
It was right before
Was I just
he
absent
went
for that?
2002.
It was right. No, it was 2004. They were drafted. It was
Yeah.
right before he went to the Cardinals.
Yep.
I remember him
I
going
didn't-
from the
I didn't
Rams
remember
to the
that
Cardinals.
either. That's
I don't
exactly
remember.
because
Like
he
Kerry
played
Collins
like
was a New
8
York Giant
games and
longer
then-
than
Kerry
Fucking-
Collins was badass.
But that's
No.
what I'm saying. Like we don't
Yeah,
know
no.
because he played 8 games and
Love
then
Kerry
Eli
No.
started.
Love
No,
Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins is not a
He's a
badass.
Penn State guy, man. Come on.
I've got 2 quick
I-
things. I'll make it quick. One, here's my prediction. I think you'll see Daniel Jones before you see Dwayne Haskins over
Really?
Case Keenum. Just that the Giants are starting to. They traded OBJ to the Browns, and I think they have inherited the Browns sickness where they're just dysfunctional and everything's fucked up at every level.
Hugh Jackson's
Here's-
going to be their coach.
Here's my big prediction. Before the end of the year, you can mark it down here. You will see Andy's boy, Drew Lock, starting at an NFL game
see it.
over Joe Flacco. And I'm not saying
though.
I'm not
in.
saying-
I was going to talk about that actually.
here's my thing. I don't think it's going to be really Flacco's fault. I think it's going to be one of those things where the team is not very good and they're
They're out of
Spread the
playoff
love.
contention. They want to get
they've
lock
won
some play time.
they've won 6 games and they've got 2 weeks left. And say they decide they want to keep Flacco fresh.
Is it that or is it Flacco injury?
Could you drink any louder,
I think
Avatar?
I don't think it's Flacco incompetence. Maybe an injury, but I think it's mostly just. I think it's just an
Teams down
overall
the shitter.
shit.
Let's get the rookie.
Yeah,
Get him in
one of
there,
the-
spread the love around.
It's just like piss on it, run the offense, give him the keys, and let's just see what he can do. But
I can tell
Don't
you.
run it into the ground.
with returns on, like I said, I think we covered last week the quarterbacks that Elway has signed thus far in his tenure. So hopefully it turns out a little better for the kid.
Oh, and
Rock and
another
roll,
one,
baby.
Another one I obviously haven't
Trevor
mentioned. Trevor Seaman. Obviously, one I haven't mentioned is Fitz and Rosen. And that's another one that's going to be a shitty team. So it really doesn't matter.
I
But-
was going to say, I don't think anybody cares who starts in Miami.
The
They
problem
don't
is,
even care.
I just see them flip-flopping because that's what they always do with Fitz. Is he'll be in there for 4 games and he'll have like one bad game and they'll throw somebody else in.
Well, what are
And
they
they'll
gonna-
play 2 games and they'll have a really bad game and they'll throw Fitz back in. They'll be like,
Is
oh,
there
shit.
anybody in the league you have more sympathy for than Josh Rosen?
No.
He got dealt
No.
the shittiest hand in life.
It's
No,
not-
he was
it's
such
not-
an arrogant
he's like the next
asshole during
Ryan
the
Lee.
draft. I have no sympathy for him.
Oh, here we
He
go.
talked about how every friggin' team that passed up on me is gonna regret it. I'm the best quarterback in this draft, and he has been nothing but shit.
He went
since.
from he jumped out of the.
Did you see what
he?
he played for last year?
Listen, I get it, and Kyler Murray's gonna be in the same.
I'm not
right
saying
now.
he's going to be quarterback Jesus or anything, but
I think it's a great thing that he left
give the
there.
kid to put his career in the grave after 1 year because he made some comments after the draft.
I'm not saying that
He
it's
played for
great.
That
a
was
shit
somebody
team.
that I thought would have been a good candidate for New York to try to go after.
That's
Is,
what I thought
trading
too.
for
I thought
him,
too, actually.
put him behind Eli,
I
and get
thought that too.
some because they could have either used the 6th pick to get a good piece, or they could have traded back, got multiple picks, and tried to solidify their roster more. That's going to be the problem for Daniel Jones, even if he gets in the game. They have Saquon Barkley. It's going to be Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones versus whoever they're playing.
Everybody is looking for a good piece.
But as far as the other controversies I'm looking at, I think Mariota and Tannehill is going to be close. I agreed with a lot of people who thought after the safety last week, Mariota should have been given at least one more drive because that was not a good one to go out on.
He just gave up.
But what I'm looking at is whoever loses that battle might not even finish the season out in Tennessee, because Indy is on the hunt for quarterbacks right now to try and do something. So if one of those two is put up on a trade block because they don't get the starting job, it would not shock me to see them.
I don't think you're going to see either of them go, because I think that they need that security blanket behind Mariota right now.
There's other quarterbacks that you could pick up though. Right now, Brian Hoyer is up on the trade block, as well as CJ Beathard.
We've already
San
tried
Francisco.
that with Hoyer before though.
Yes.
One
And
little thing
honestly, the Colts don't need anybody. They have Chad Swag Kelly, and he's going to be the future.
Chad
so.
Swag, Mr. Irrelevant.
Chad.
You know who I miss? Clipboard Jesus. I miss Clipboard Jesus.
I was about to say, why doesn't anybody call Charlie Whitehurst?
Yeah.
He's got to be
Charlie
somewhere.
Whitehurst, baby.
I saw
probably
Bruce
like managing
Gradkowski's
a
working for
grocery
Pro
store.
Jake
Football
Locker.
Focus. He could throw
Call
some
Jake
pads on and
Locker.
go back out there. Jake
All right.
Locker.
All right, so anything else you want to add to the
I just wanted to say,
Nope.
who is Jameis Winston going to get benched for this season, and how many times?
Gruden
We don't even know
trades
they're-
Mike
He's
Glennon
gonna-
back
yeah.
to
I
the
was
Buccaneers.
I was just saying Mike Glennon will come out of
Glennon.
nowhere.
Or somehow
Glennon will
Josh
be on the
McCown ends up
Buccaneers.
back in Tampa.
Yeah, that's it.
Who is their? I don't even know who their backup
Yeah, I
quarterbacks
mean,
are.
it's that
I don't.
McMahon. Well, you talked about it a second ago, didn't I?
I don't know who had the Buccaneers. Maybe that should have been their job.
Yeah, well,
Host.
you know
The host, yeah. The host, you're killing it.
I don't know what you're talking about, guys. Jeez.
You were thinking Sean Mannion, weren't you?
Sitting
yeah,
there
I
on
was about to say,
NFL.com.
The Buccaneers signed Sean Mannion right after Andy Stewart condemns him to the dumpster.
Yeah, that's it. That's a hot take right there.
Backup quarterback wise is Ryan Griffin.
I did know that.
I thought he was
He's
a tight
trash.
end.
He's trash.
There's two.
There's
There's
two
more
Ryan
than one
Griffins.
Ryan Griffin.
And Blaine Gabbert.
Oh shit!
Oh.
They're
If
good.
he's-
They're good.
So
If
how-
he's- How far have the mighty fallen? If
Week
Blaine Gabbert
three,
is
Blaine
third on the
Gabbert
depth
starts.
chart behind
NFC
a
North
guy
chance.
who could be confused
A
for
tight end.
Oh, and they
A
just
guy-
signed. We talked about this prior to the show. They just signed Vincent Testaverde.
Oh yeah.
When
There
he
we go.
showed up, I was like, "Holy shit! 65-year-old Vinny Testaverde is about to start."
I was
Vinny
really excited.
Testaverde's corpse is coming for you, baby.
I was like, this dude's gonna be really good until he gets hit once, and then he's gonna be in a coma. the
Yep.
rest of his life.
It's gonna be afraid
We'll
to
see.
do
I don't know if
anything.
you can take shotgun snaps on a hover round. I just don't
At
know.
65
It's gonna be
years old, suffering through dementia, he would probably still make better decisions with the ball than
All
Jameis.
senior citizens
That's
should
true.
use Life Alert.
He's gonna get hit, and it's gonna be one of those things like a ghost. You're just gonna watch his shoulder pad, helmets fall down, and just dust comes out.
It's gonna be
from
a
all
Thanos
sides.
snap, dust flying.
He's gonna get
Oh,
sucked
My,
into
my
guys, we
headline,
missed-
my headline
we missed
on
the
Twitter
biggest
for this
injury too,
podcast-
though.
What's
What's
that?
The biggest injury that happened so far was Djax breaking his finger on his Life Alert necklace.
Is this Groundhog
That's
Day? But no, my tagline on Twitter is going to be: we discuss how well 65-year-old Vinny Testaverde would fare.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen now.
Every week.
Yeah. Stay tuned for our picks at how Vinny Testaverde would
That
fare
should
in the
be
league
that's
today.
the perfect quarterback metric. Like they have all these analytics and stuff. It's like, how does this guy look against 2002 Vinny Testaverde?
Well, speaking of 65-year-old Vincent Testaverde, this August is National Cataract Awareness Month.
And with cataracts,
All
you
right,
throw less picks than Jameis.
The show is going south here, so let's quickly end this guy. I wanted to talk about first-round draft picks and your impact player. I'm gonna make mine short and sweet here. I want to pick one of the Devons, and I don't want to be that guy that picks the Steelers' Devin Bush just because
I
he's
picked
a Steeler.
Devin Bush, so just take Devin White.
Okay, so I'm actually that was one of the ones I wanted to pick, but actually I think my top pick is going to be Josh Allen, and the reason being I think he's going to bring a dynamic pass rush to that Jaguars defense that they need. They've already talked about him being great, and I think that Jags defense is going to have a real good bounce back season. So I like him. On my offensive side, JC will like this. I pick Josh Jacobs. I think the release of Doug Martin really shows they got confidence in him, and I really think that he's going to have a great year. I think he's a 1,000-yard rusher this year.
I'm going to go right after Jesse just because at the risk of sounding like a homer, my pick was Josh Jacobs. Being a Raider fan, I think our offensive line will be good enough, and I think the rest of the offense around him, and we have two other very capable running backs behind him. He's my pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year, quite personally. And I hate to say it, but I'm not going to dwell on him for too long because obviously with this hanging in the background, and I hate to just inflate your guys' egos anymore, but my pick for Defensive Player of the Year, like I just told Jesse, is Devin Bush. This is too early to tell, but I think he's going to be like Ryan Shazier on crack. He's going to be
bigger.
He's bigger.
Stronger.
He's bigger. He seems like almost like he's faster. Like he covers just as well. But the way the guy lays hits. I mean, every time he tries to grab a hold of somebody, he's trying to punish guys.
The only thing I'm worried about with him is his shoulder because they talked about him having shoulder issues in college. And he had that wrap up on his shoulder during the Titans game, and he was pulled out a few plays because of it. So that's the only thing I see hindering him.
Yeah, if he injury-wise, if he stays healthy, I see him being and you know how much you guys know, the listeners, all 12 of them don't know how much it pains me to say something nice to your guys' face, especially about the Steelers. But I think he's the offensive and defensive rookie of the year. I think those are my two picks. Devin White being maybe a close second.
Yeah.
I'll go next. You can go last, Kevin.
Yeah, okay, I wanted to anyways.
Okay. So, Jace, I was going to take Devin Bush anyhow, but I'm going to reciprocate this shitty hand job we're going to give each other. And I'm actually...
You're just talking about, like, my high school years.
Yeah. For my defensive rookie, I am going to take Clelin Ferrell. Because if he amounts to the leader that they drafted him to be, and he gets that defense around him, and he starts getting shit together, I don't know a single one of those players on the Raiders.
Is the ground getting cold? Is hell freezing over?
I think if Clelin Ferrell puts that defense on his back and shows them the way, and is the leader that he was brought in to be, he's going to have a fuck of a season.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about him at length, but I was very skeptical of the pick given who was there on the board. I
was expecting Josh Allen to go there.
Yep. The amount of text messages, like my phone just started vibrating across the table as soon as we took that pick. The thing I will say I've seen from him and I wanted Josh Allen. From game to game, I will say he has progressed. Like he has looked better and better every single time. And if he continues to get better, like Andy said,
he's a leader.
He played for a 2-time national champion team at Clemson.
And he was the leader of that defense.
That's apparently the only players Mike Mayock wants to draft is just,
truth.
Belichick drafts from Alabama, Mayock's going to take from Clemson. So I agree with you. It's just he's a long ways away, but if he develops, he'll be good.
So what's your
Leadership
offense player?
You guys are going to talk shit on me, but T.J. Hawkinson, I think he's going to have a big year.
Wow.
I'm not even going to say why, because I'm embarrassed. But
Say
go
it.
ahead.
This is a judgment-free zone.
With Golden Tate gone, Matthew Stafford's going to need a safety belt, and it's going to be T.J. Hawkinson, and he is going to be all over the place. And that's it.
That's a good assessment.
It's
honestly.
not
I would
bad.
agree with that.
I mean, it is. It is, but I mean,
I can see it.
I heard Jace talking shit on T.J. Hawkinson whenever we were.
Well, no, it's just
tight
they.
ends too early.
Reaching for tight ends in the actual NFL draft is always not good.
No,
and
never.
B,
And
yeah. You spot the dumbass in your fantasy league is always the guy who drafts Gronk or Kelsey like first.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin,
So
what do you got?
Well, I'm gonna agree with Jace on Devin Bush.
It's hard. It is hard not to pick him right now.
Yeah.
What you've seen.
I think him being there is going to turn that defense back into what it was, because they were one of those teams that they were always bend but not break. Like they were in the top 10 yearly. Just you always watched them play and you're like, man, this defense is terrible, because teams would go up and down the field on them, but they never scored.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think turnovers are going to be huge this year because
they need an uptick in turnovers. He'll help out on that end, I think, as well as Mike Hilton. But I really think he's going to have a really good year and be in the Defensive Rookie of the Year discussion. Now, my other impact draft pick on offense is Odell Beckham Jr.
You can't do this again. You can't do this again.
Yes,
You
I
can't.
can.
You can't.
Yes, I
It
do
wasn't
that.
last year. Last year was
The best
2015.
use of a draft
it was
pick of
2015.
anybody
It was
on the offensive
when Jimmy
side.
Graham got traded.
For anybody who didn't listen
I was
to episode
wrong one
1
time. It's
of
not
all
gonna
the
happen.
Go back on our
Twice.
YouTube page and
Yeah.
listen to episode 1.
Go back. Kevin
And
basically, when
I'm not
the
going to be
Seahawks,
wrong on something like this twice.
when the
Yes, you
Seahawks forever and a day ago traded for Jimmy Graham and traded a
traded
first-round pick for it. Well, you see how well you said he was the best first-round pick, and we see how well that worked out. So
if
You know what?
really
I'm
think
actually
about
happy
it,
you did that then. I hope you cursed it just the way you cursed Jimmy Graham.
Yeah,
well,
no
see, he
shit.
was only the 32nd pick in the draft there, Jimmy Graham, because that was what Seattle had.
he wasn't
so when you get to
drafted.
32nd, that's kind of, back end of the talent
Somebody
spectrum.
was drafted in that position that pick was.
Yeah, Jimmy
given
Graham
to.
was traded for the pick that was
Daniel
there.
Jones
Yes.
was picked in
So
this spot.
then say Daniel Jones.
No, he Daniel Jones was drafted in 2015. We're living in everything.
No, I'm
podcast.
talking about the Odell Beckham trade, Chief.
Right.
But
Oh, still.
no, on offense, I'm gonna have to actually go with Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I think him getting them to an 8-8 record would be enough for him to get Rookie of the Year.
I can
And
see it.
And watching
I
him
understand
play
it, but
in the
I think
preseason
there's
games
gonna
on
be
the
other
highlights, which of course it's highlights, so they're not. You
Scrap.
don't see all of his throws. But what I've seen from him from highlights is he has decent ball placement. I think he can be serviceable at least. And if David Johnson has a little bit of a resurgence from his down year last year, the Arizona Cardinals should get to that 8-8 mark, and he would again be in the running for a Rookie of the Year.
The Cardinals will be drafting number 1 overall next year.
I think so too. All right, guys.
Miami.
Final notes, sign offs, whatever you want to say. Go around the horn. Andy started off. Any final last words?
Go Antonio.
I like a dude to cha-cha.
Okay.
I just want to make one revision when I made the linebacker comment earlier when I was talking about Devin White and I compared him to Devin Thomas. I'm a dipshit. I should have just said since he plays for the Buccaneers, Devin Brooks or not
Derek Brooks.
Derek Brooks. I got there's too many D names to me. Derek Brooks was the one.
Got D on the mind, baby.
Derek Brooks is the best running back, best linebacker in the history of the NFL.
We're all fucked up. No,
Everybody
Derek
needs to get
Brooks.
a bet,
Zach
evidently.
Thomas.
Yeah, Derek Brooks was the one I should have made, but anyhow, moving on.
Yes. All good. Kevin, last words.
I already said go Antonio.
All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining us, all 12 of you. I've got our YouTube page back, so this will be up on YouTube here in probably the next 10 minutes. And watch for us on the podcast, on the website, on our Facebook page. Follow us there. If you want to donate, please donate. It costs us a few bucks to get this thing going every year, so
you could be a sponsor.
Yeah, you could be a sponsor. Anybody that donates, send me a message on Facebook. We will shout you out at the end of our National Bank. If you donate to us,
they got out
we
of
will
money.
We will give you a shout out at the end of our shows because we greatly appreciate it. That would be fantastic.
We need to pay our electric bills.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Next week, we're going to be looking in. We have our fantasy draft in our league this Sunday. So we will be talking a little bit about that, what we expect. We're going to look at the NFC East and West. You're actually seeing two of the former champions, me 2 years ago and Andy last year, because
put some respect on my name. Hold on.
It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, but you remember I beat you
your
in the final.
Your name is on the trophy. We have a Vince Lombardi trophy that we all have our name and team name engraved on it. I think that I have the best team name this year with Frozen Tonio Browns. And I don't know what any of your teams are, but
Cousins contract.
I don't know if I have found a better one than Bill Cosby's Pudding Pills yet. So
I went in one of my leagues. I'm Carry On My Wayward Son, and then I think in ours I've made it.
No, that's
finally.
ours.
Well, I think I've done it in all my leagues, but I think ours
okay.
I'm going to be Hotel Motel Holiday Inn.
I like it. All right, guys. So tune in next Wednesday, of course, and we'll be up and running again once again. Follow us on Facebook. We're going to have the Twitter hopefully up running soon. Jason's in charge of that, so he's got to recover some passwords.
I will be recovering that account tomorrow, and like I said,
I'm
always watching. Takes. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'm always watching baseball, paying attention to some sport. So, and I'll give you these four will also have the obviously access to the account and everything. So you're basically going to see 24 hours. Kevin does
know how to tweet.
Kevin is very active on Twitter. He just never tweets. I'm going to give him the keys to the Twitter account and let him run wild. And you're just going to see like 24 hours of like Skip Bayless like hot
swag Kelly baby.
I tweet into the DA show all the
time. But yeah, so more to come. Stay tuned.
Which if you don't watch,
thanks for watching.
DA on CBS.
We're signing out tonight. This show was a whole like 15 minutes shorter. I thought we would cut it down by a half hour, and it didn't work that way because we all got off topic. Because Peyton Hillis. Let me just take a second here. All right, guys. Have a great night. Tune in next week.
Deuces.
Peace.